Hey everyone, and welcome back to our Fact series. This is the series where we take a deep dive into Prince's catalogue, bringing you the knowledge about every chapter of his rich musical tapestry. This series has been going for a few years now, and we're approaching the final stretch, so I'd like to take a moment and thank every one of you. Whether this is your first Facts video, or you've watched them all, we appreciate the support. Today, we're looking at another example of Prince doing something different. So whilst Prince was no stranger to multiple disc albums at this point in his career, this one was a little different. This was 3 separate albums, all with distinct themes, bundled together as one. And because of that, in this video we'll actually just be looking at the first disc of the set. Of course, I can only be talking about 2009's Lotusflow3r release, which was comprised of the Lotusflow3r album itself, the Minneapolis Sound album, and Bria Valente's album Elixir. We'll be making a video about the Minneapolis Sound album separately, but currently don't have plans to make one about the Bria album, since this series is Prince Facts, not Associated Artist Acts. That could be a different series if that's something you'd like to see us do. So let's get into it. But before we do, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. I can't say this enough, it's truly your support that helps keep this channel going. So subscribe and hit the bell icon for notifications so you don't miss future videos. Alright, let's go. So the first fun fact is something I remember very clearly and requires some context. From roughly 2004 to the beginning of 2009, there was a radio station in Los Angeles named Indie 103.1. Although owned by a corporation called Entravision, the station had a very DIY and punk attitude to its programming, with its flagship show Jonesy's Jukebox being hosted by Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols, and described by the LA Times as the closest thing to anarchy on commercial radio. The station's music director, Mr. Shovel, had been invited to Prince's LA mansion to hear some new music, and not long after this meeting, on the 18th of December 2008, Steve Jones premiered not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 brand new Prince songs on the air that sent the Purple fanbase into a frenzy. Those songs were Crimson and Clover, Colonized Mind, Wall of Berlin, and Forever. On air, Mr. Shovel conveyed a message from Prince that Prince at this point in time wanted nothing to do with record labels and hadn't yet decided how to release this music. Unfortunately, in early 2009, Entravision would shut down Indie 103 from terrestrial airwaves and move it to a digital-only station. It would only be 3 months later that Prince had concocted a plan to release the Lotusflow3r album. A brand new website, Lotusflow3r.com, launched on March 24th. Some of you watching this video will have never experienced that $77 a year subscription website. Those of us who did might feel a slight headache at the memory. The first problem was that the site was built using Flash technology, which was already outdated at the time, extremely heavy on bandwidth, terrible for SEO, and hard to manage and update. It was for these reasons and others that Flash was never even supported on Apple's iPhone, which had already been out for 2 years at this point. Although Flash had strengths in animations and graphics, even at its peak of popularity years before this, it was understood that it was best as a supplement on websites and not for building entire websites. That decision aside, the website required users to solve some clues before being permitted to sign up, was quite low on content, rarely updated over the course of the year, and to add insult to injury, many fans did not receive their promised t-shirt. And at the end of the year, despite the website clearly being a dead project, all fans were charged a second-year fee before refunds were issued and the site promptly shut down. Although I did receive my t-shirt, as a fan who was already working in the technology space at this time in my life, I have to say the Lotusflow3r website was a particularly low point as far as Prince's digital endeavors. This was a particularly bitter pill to swallow when one remembered that he had received a Webby Award, one of the highest awards in digital culture, just a few years prior for the NPGMC site. For someone that had pioneered so many great things online, it had become clear that Prince and the people around him were now behind the fast-moving times of the internet. I must give one caveat: the graphics were absolutely stunning, and a shout out must be given to Anthony Malzone, the creative designer for Prince at that time. Speaking of the NPGMC, 1 week before it closed back in 2006, Prince previewed on that site an early version of a song from this album. The song Feel Better, Feel Good, Feel Wonderful. So let's talk about the music. Well, as we touched on in the previous video, some of the songs were already nearly 5 years old at the point of release. From the Lotus, Back to the Lotus, Colonized Mind, Love Like Jazz, and Wall of Berlin all dated back to the same November 2004 session that had produced the title track for 3121, the title track for Planet Earth, and Guitar. But an interesting counter to this is that Dreamer, Boom, and Crimson and Clover were all very new, having been recorded at Sunset Sound in late 2008. I've always felt, and especially now having recorded there myself recently, there was always a certain magic to what Prince did at Sunset Sound, and these sessions were actually the first time that Prince had been back there in well over a decade. Given that these 3 songs have always been rated very highly from this set, you might agree with me that Prince probably should have done a few more sessions at Sunset Sound in his later years. And, as is commonly understood with Prince, those 3 released songs were far from the only things recorded at those 2008 Sunset Sound sessions. During those sessions, Prince also recorded Compassion and Future Soul Song, later to be released on the 2010 album. Turn Me Loose, which was played live and a studio version played on the radio, but never officially released, as well as 2 completely unreleased cover songs, a version of Elvis Presley's All Shook Up, and a version of Cat Stevens' The First Cut Is the Deepest, originally released by P.P. Arnold. When it comes to proteges, of course, as we mentioned, Prince had a new one, Bria Valente, at this point. And Tamar Davis, who had been his primary protege throughout the 3121 era, was no longer in the camp. We tend to not think too much about any crossover between the two, but actually it's interesting to note on this album, Tamar and Bria both appear on backing vocals on the songs Forever and Colonized Mind, joined by 2 other collaborators, the NPG's Marva King and Shelby J. In terms of a physical release, Prince once again showed he was willing to try new things. The physical release in the USA was sold exclusively at Target stores, and promoted by a Target commercial featuring the song Dreamer. Unlike the website, this initiative seemed to be a success, selling 168,000 copies in the first week, which was enough to land the record at the number 2 spot on the Billboard 200 and the number 1 spot in the top R&B and hip-hop albums chart. Internationally, the album was picked up by a French label named Because Music, and copies produced by them found their way across Europe. If you've watched our 3121 video, you'll remember us talking about the unreleased 3121 movie. So, another interesting fact is that Prince recut the movie for Lotusflower. It was apparently set to feature on the Lotusflower.com website before being pulled the day before the website launched. One rarely known fact is that Prince also intended to release it via the French record label. One fan at that time noticed that a promotional poster in a major French record store appeared to have a section that was taped over with a small piece of black tape. That fan, when staff at the store had their backs turned, managed to sneakily pull away at the tape, revealing some text indicating that the Lotusflower movie was being released. This again points to a last-minute cancellation. There was also one significant difference between the download version of the album available on the Lotusflower website and the physical CD version. The CD contained Crimson and Clover exclusively, and the digital release contained the song The Morning After exclusively. The Morning After had originally been included on an early configuration of the 3121 album, and is thought to appear in both the 3121 and Lotusflower edits of the unreleased film. As the song Dreamer has been highly regarded by fans ever since its release, it's perhaps not surprising to learn it was nominated for a Grammy for Best Solo Rock Vocal Performance at the 2010 Grammy Awards. Unfortunately, Prince did not take home this trophy, losing out to Bruce Springsteen's Working on a Dream, but it was nice to see him nominated in this category, alongside other nominees like John Fogerty, Neil Young, and his fellow Minnesotan Bob Dylan. One of the things that was most impressive about the Lotusflower era, especially for fans in LA, was the 28th of March 2009. 4 days after the digital album release and the evening before the physical album hit shelves in Target stores, Prince pulled off something absolutely incredible. 3 shows in one night, at 3 different venues in LA, with 3 different bands. The first show at the Nokia Theatre at around 7 PM was a hits extravaganza, with Cora Coleman, Josh Dunham, Morris Hayes, Frederick Yonay, Shelby J, Liv Warfield, Elisa Fiorillo and Sheila E., and included songs like 1999, I Feel For You, Controversy, Kiss, Jungle Love, and The Glamorous Life. Prince then moved over to the Conga Room for a 10 p.m. New Power Trio show with Sonny T and Michael B. As you can expect, a bluesy, guitar-heavy show containing songs like I'm Yours, Colonized Mind, Chaos and Disorder, Empty Room, Peach, and When You Were Mine. And finally, at Club Nokia, Prince was joined by John Blackwell, Rhonda Smith, Renato Neto, and a guest appearance from Shaka Khan for a jazzy midnight set featuring songs like Under the Cherry Moon, The Sun, the Moon and Stars, Sometimes It Snows in April, I Love You But I Don't Trust You Anymore, and In a Large Room with No Light. I wonder if any of you watching attended 1, 2, or even all 3 of those shows. What an incredible night that must have been. Fun fact, if you watch our interview with creative designer Anthony Malzone, you'll notice a large hanging art piece of his lotus flower art at the back of the room. Anthony told us that came directly off the wall of the Nokia Center after the show concluded. Can't think of any other artists who have ever or could ever pull off something like that. 3 shows, 3 venues, 3 bands, 3 distinct different musical themes to each show, and each one chock full of masterfully written and performed Prince classics in different genres, all from the mind and body of one man. Only Prince could do that, and that's just one of many reasons why we love and miss him. One final note, a couple of years back at Celebration at Paisley Park on the VIP track, we did get to hear one unreleased song that appeared on an early Lotus Flower configuration, and that was the rip-roaring guitar-heavy Della Blackheart. Quite why it didn't make the cut is unknown. It's as good as the best of anything on the album, and I remember everyone in the room being very impressed when we heard it. Perhaps the estate can find a way to make it available. And that's it for another Facts video. Thanks again for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. What are your memories of the Lotus Flower era? What are your favorite songs from the album? Please let us know in the comments. And if you haven't already, if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to help us make more videos, and hit the bell icon for notifications. Till next time, Purple People, I'm Casey Rain. Peace, and be wild.
Hi, I'm Elisa Fiorillo, and you're watching The Violet Reality on YouTube. All things Prince!